Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this evening's guest moderator from Entertainment Weekly Radio, Julia Cunningham, and tonight's guest, Vince Vaughn.
Thank you for coming. I hope everyone loves karaoke as much as I do. This first song that we're going to do, nice to be here. Nice to see you guys.
You would steal the show, Vince.
No.
God.
I'm only here to support. We're on the same side. There's no stealing involved.
Well, that's so thoughtful of you. Thank you so much for being here to visit me, Vince.
It's so nice to see you. How are you?
I'm doing so well.
That's good to hear.
First of all, I wanted to start because obviously this man, Vince Vaughn, Wedding Crashers, Dodgeball, Rudy. We could go on and on. So when we get a movie like this poignant, thoughtful, fun film, we're thinking, how many scripts do you go through a year, and what makes you pick one?
Well, this movie was really about the filmmaker. Ken Scott is very unique in that you don't see a lot of films nowadays that can be both funny and kind of touching and dramatic under one roof. And the movie is very unpredictable. So it was fun as an actor to go and do something a little bit different where it's very funny, but it's also a lot of extreme situations as well.
Now, this film called Delivery Man, it's out on Friday. Just in doing research, it's actually a remake that Ken Scott's close to. He was the director right of it, and he did it in Canada first. So now, is that something you knew about going into it thinking, I've seen this film, or were you approached?
Yeah, Ken is very passionate about the story. He wrote the script, and he wrote and directed the original, and I thought the original was great. And when they came to me to do the movie, I don't think I would have been open to it if it wasn't the same filmmaker. And I asked him, why are you wanting to tell the story again? He says, I'm very passionate about this particular story. This is something that really is important to me, I think, as a father, as a parent. And it's kind of a non-syrupy way that's kind of, not polite to kind of, any other way to say it, but to get into kind of emotions or feelings in a very unexpected way. So he was, excited to tell the story, and then he really wanted to set it and tell it here in New York City, and that's what we did.
Well, what happens in those early stages? We have Kobe Smulders, we have Chris Pratt. Do you guys do table readings for chemistry?
That's hilarious. No, Ken kind of cast it as an actor, you're just kind of a hired gun. So I was excited when it was Kobe Smulders and Chris Pratt. They're both great actors and fun, and we had some rehearsal time to kind of work on the parts, but I wasn't really a part of the casting process.
Well, let's talk about your character, Dave Wozniak. How do you describe him when you're going on your plane tonight through airport security and they say, who are you playing in the new movie? What are you going to tell the TSA?
Well, I could tell the TSA a lot of things if they start touching me, but as far as where the character is concerned, I think what's nice about David Wozniak is he's a guy that, obviously younger, kind of made some donations to a fertility clinic, and now it's kind of coming home to roost, if you will. But I think it's sort of symbolic for making decisions younger, not really thinking of the future in general, and sort of feeling like it's kind of happening in a vacuum. But I think what makes him an interesting guy to watch in the journey is that he has a great capacity to love, and he happens to have a great capacity to accept people. And I think as you get older in life, hopefully, younger, you'll have people kind of put pressure on you to be all things to all people. And hopefully you start to just become okay with who you are and sort of accept yourself.
For you as an actor, how do you go in developing a character, especially knowing that it's a remake and there's already an audience that potentially could love this character? Do you read through the script, make mental notes? How do you break it down?
To me, it's less about if the movie's been done. I had that experience once before working with Gus Van Sant for Psycho, and to me that was about working with the director, and it was the same thing here. So songs can be covered by other people, or stories can be told, plays can be done, but your approach is the same. For me, I always try to prepare and do as much as I possibly can to kind of put myself in the shoes of that character, and then ultimately you try to be honest in the scenes. I'm not as big on accents or this stuff, or if it calls for it, but I think what really matters is that you're being truthful and that you don't really try to force an emotion across the screen depending on the tone that you're doing it with. What I think is more elegant and honest is to allow yourself to feel kind of whatever comes up. And it's like anything, if you're prepared, then when you get there, it's sort of the easiest part of the day, because you don't have to do much except listen and sort of react to the circumstances.
You mentioned earlier, Vince, how the movie is actually shot in New York City, which we don't often get to see. A lot of times we see Toronto as New York City or unknown city as New York City. How did it feel actually getting to shoot in Manhattan?
It was great.
/ Brooklyn.
Yeah, we shot Madison Square Garden in a lot of different neighborhoods, and when you see the movie, it really is important because there's so many kids in different lifestyles and neighborhoods that it really becomes, a big part of the film.
Well, what about you being Vince Vaughn in the middle of Central Park? Is that hard to push? Like, how do you set up a scene like that? I mean, do you guys have to shoot early in the morning? I mean, we're still in New York City, and you are, by the way, Vince Vaughn.
No, I mean, you're shooting something, and I think people are used to that you're filming something. It's not as if people kind of come up and, sometimes people say hi and stuff, but it was people, they were pretty respectful.
I'm so happy to hear you weren't harassed. How about, can you describe the scene that takes place in Madison Square Garden? Like, how does a scene that large come together?
Well, it's in the movie that one of the kids is, you find out that he's a pro basketball player and you want to go see it. And, it's easier to shoot when a game is going on because of the background and all the extras and stuff. It's much easier to shoot at halftime during a game and have the real atmosphere. So they were nice enough to kind of include us. And you can't really match that. The Madison Square Garden is literally, Madison Square Garden and, all the fans and stuff that are there. So it's great to kind of have that energy and be able to take advantage of that opportunity to have that be on this in the movie.
And you're actually filming like during a real Knicks game?
That's right. We did the same thing for Rudy at halftime at Notre Dame. We went to film some of the stuff that we shot for that film as well.
And again, I mean, when you're standing there, what is the energy like? Are you trying to have people get the crowd going for specific scenes?
Yeah, that's not my, for me, I just sort of go there and try to portray the scene and let other people kind of worry about that. But I do think that there is a great energy there that's existing for the game that makes it easier to recreate that.
We have a clip that we're going to take a look at. Right after you leave Madison Square Garden, you're hanging out with Chris Pratt, who is also your best friend / a lawyer. And I think if we can take a quick look at this clip and then we'll talk about it. It's a lighthearted scene, but it's also kind of serious, right?
Yeah, I mean, the tone of the movie is really great because it's very grounded. And like I said, the filmmaker's very unique, Ken Scott. I'm doing another movie with him actually right now that Steve Conrad, who wrote Pursuit of Happiness, wrote. And it's with Tom Wilkinson and with Dave Franco. And, like Delivery Man, I think that, you can be very funny, but it can also be very dramatic or moving. And I think as an audience member, it makes the movie a lot of fun because you're not getting the same genre thrown at you constantly. So, and I think, Chris does such a good job in the movie because he kind of plays it very real and very naturalistic.
And it's such like a natural dialogue too. Like obviously you guys are playing friends, but it feels that way. Like was there kind of camaraderie, like just throughout
I like
filming?
Chris in real life. He's very nice. I think he does a good job. He takes his work very seriously. Kobe was great. And a lot of the young actors were terrific. There's a bunch of great performances by young kids who are playing young people starting their lives. And I think what's fascinating in the film is, as a parent, it kind of plays into the hopes and fears that you have for your child. But as a young person, I think it speaks to those feelings of isolation or being frustrated or being hurt, whether it's a breakup or being in a job that you don't want to be in. And at that age, feeling so alone, almost ashamed to talk about that or admit it, but not having kind of a life experience to realize that you're not the only one who are feeling those feelings at that age. And I think that the director does an interesting job where, yes, here's a kid you go see that you're proud of because, on the most basic superficial level, he's able to be good at something. In this case, it's basketball. But it also deals with, people who aren't doing jobs they want to be doing, breakups, getting caught up in, crowds that are not healthy for them or people taking advantage of them, challenges both physically and otherwise. And it kind of, I think, shows a spectrum of things that all people can relate to in different ways.
Now, some of the kids in there of varying degrees of closeness, there's some that are actually suing you. We should mention that there's like 148 that actually have the lawsuit against you.
It's interesting because the movie's very contemporary. You see it happening a lot now where this has happened, where people that were conceived through the sperm bank are now, they've overused some of the people who've contributed, if you will, and they're coming together saying we want to know who our father is. And the movie really tackles that issue where the father kind of felt that he would be unknown and remain that way, but now there's a large group of kids who are saying we didn't sign up for this and we're curious to know who our father is.
And for people that just are familiar with Vince Vaughn movies, we always see you kind of as this grown man-child, sometimes with a child, for instance, like in Old School, or sometimes in Wedding Crasher where you're not quite ready to grow up. But this one actually feels like you're making a shift. Was this like a decision you wanted to make?
Well, I think it was an opportunity. I mean, to me, it's kind of a return to what I did early after Swingers, before I started doing studio films, where it gets to be more grounded with comedy and played more realistic. And then, when we did a lot of the, studio outlaw R comedies, they kind of left us alone because there was, they just, we did it for small enough of a budget, and then they all kind of did very well. So then what happens is you start getting managed more. You'll sign up and they'll say, okay, we want to do the movie like this. And then you find yourself on the set and they don't want to make a movie. They change the tone. And as an actor, it's really the director's medium or the studio's call. You show up sometimes with expectations, and ultimately you have to fit into their movie. What was nice about Delivery Man is we got to make the movie that we set out to, which was, a movie that does have a lot of depth to it and have some really touching scenes, and not have a burden to always be playing for the joke, which I think makes it a funnier, more rewarding movie ultimately. Even Wedding Crashers, although it's very funny and hard R, I think there's some real kind of sentiment that's done honestly in that movie.
Oh, you always learn from a Vince Vaughn movie, right?
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
There's got to be something at least. So when you're talking about some of maybe these scenes that are a little bit more serious, because there is some more serious factors to your character, how do you prep for those days?
I think it's the same. You just go in and you try to be honest, and having good actors makes it easy because you're just listening to what they're doing and you sort of know who you are. Your imagination is kind of the best thing you have as an actor because you're not going to have all experiences, and you just go and listen. And it's no different than improv. I think that you allow yourself to feel whatever kind of comes up. You don't go in there trying to impose a will upon a scene. I never liked that. A lot of times, like even in this, I started doing press and people said, oh, there's a lot of improv, but there really hardly isn't any. It's just, I always thought that was, acting was looking like you're not acting. So you want to try to go and sort of, allow whatever happens on that day to be the truth of that moment and to trust that.
Now, I want to make sure we open up the floor to question and answers, but I wanted to show one more clip
Sure.
from the movie, if we could do that really quick. A guardian angel, an extension of you. It's Vince Vaughn. Can we open up the floor to any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Yoshi. I'm Japanese.
Okay.
By the way, yeah, how are you?
How are
By the way,
you?
you look so cool, guy. So I, I can't believe you can do comedy, lots of comedy movies. So my question is, are you really funny in your life?
Am I funny in real life is the question.
Then this movie looks amazing. But my question is, which movie was the most fun to make? Then who was your favorite co-star, like partner?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think having a sense of humor about yourself is always a good thing in life, to be able to laugh at stuff. So that's always served me well. I like to laugh and kind of joke about stuff. But I'm not someone who feels the need to kind of be on all the time or constantly making jokes and that kind of stuff. But I do like to try to have a sense of humor about things. And then my favorite movie to make was probably Swingers, just because Jon Favreau had written this movie, and we were very young and passionate about not compromising it, and we really wanted to tell that story specifically. We didn't know at the time anyone would see it. We did it for such a small budget, and it was such a labor of love, and we just kind of followed our passion with that film. And then it was a lot of work. We shot it in 21 days, and we didn't have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of coverage and stuff, but just the joy of making a movie you believed in was great. And then my favorite co-star, or funniest, I had the good fortune of working with a lot of funny co-stars. Favreau's funny, Owen Wilson's funny, Will Ferrell's funny, so it's hard to pick somebody, but I've worked with a lot of people that have made me laugh. Thank you.
I think we have one in the back.
Sure.
Hi, Vince.
How are you?
Very good.
Good.
It's great to be here, okay? And I wanted to ask you something about the movie The Wedding Crasher.
Uh-huh. There's an S on that, but let's keep going.
Okay. So that movie changed the life of a lot of my friends. Okay. So what I wanted to ask you is how much of the movie is actually a part of your experience, a life experience?
Yeah, no, I never crashed a wedding in real life. I hate to let you down. These are not documentaries as much, sir. These are scripted movies, but again, I think it speaks to the point. There's something we tried to accomplish with these comedies where you try to convey that this is really happening, and I think it's important to do that. It's a high compliment. I think it's what you're going for, is to make the audience feel as if, okay, those are those guys, and this is what they're going through. But I think what's important about Crashers or Swingers or those movies is they are feelings, I think, that we all feel. They're just done in experiences or circumstances that are extreme. So we sort of take the concept there of guys being younger, pursuing meeting girls and not really, with a youthful point of view about it's all kind of fun. And then as they get older, realizing maybe this isn't as fun as we thought it was. And we do it through the mechanism of crashing weddings, but I think it's something that all kind of guys go through. And Swingers was really about getting someone through a breakup, someone who gets broken up with, who's hurting, and you have your group of friends that try to encourage them. They may not all say "your money, baby," but they have their words to do that. So I think what the themes of the movies are very relatable. And with this movie here, I think it's really about what is it to be a father and becoming a father. So I just think that the ways in sometimes can be kind of fun concepts, but that the actual themes of the movie are very relatable.
Hey, Vince, what's going on? I'm a really big fan.
How are you?
Good, thanks. I was wondering if you and John could do a sequel to the movie Made, which is amazing.
Yeah, Made was a great film. That was the first movie that John directed, the first movie I produced. And we had a hard time with studios in that we had done Swingers, which no one would make, and they said, whatever you want to do now, we'll do, because we kind of missed the boat on Swingers. We didn't understand it because it wasn't a typical kind of film, and so we said, great. And at the time, John had a film, a Western about a Hasidic gunfighter. And then they said no to that. They thought that was kind of an odd ask. So we went on a journey with kind of trying to develop movies inside the studio system, and constantly just so many people involved in developing it, you couldn't get an idea across that you felt good about. And so John wrote this script in short time, and he called it Made because it's sort of about these guys who think they want to be made in sort of an organized crime way. But it was also kind of spiritual in that we wanted to get this movie made. We didn't want to be developing this movie. So he wrote it, and we went and made the film, and I'm really proud of it. I think the movie's very funny, and again, that's a very grounded movie that's very real in places, and I think the ending's very honest and not traditional, and it was a very, very important film to us. And we've had a chance to collaborate since then. Fabs was in The Breakup, which was a lot of fun. He did a great job in that in Couples Retreat, but there's no plans, in the immediate future, but never know. We could find ourselves in something again at some point, something maybe more along the lines of those kind of films. But I guess that Favreau has a film called Chef that he wrote that I'm excited about, kind of a smaller character movie. So I look forward to seeing that.
Well, Vince, thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
and thank you to all you guys for coming out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Delivery Man is out on Friday, the 22nd.
On Friday. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And thank you to you. Well done.
Oh my gosh, thank